course, welcome back to the Biz World channel, the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, the job market channel. I mean, today we're going to touch business, work, career paths, also mental health, all the stuff that can affect anyone in business. And I've had a lot of people tell me like, well, why do you do all these other channels that are not health, which is our core? Well, because a lot of the stuff we do in life affects, our health, whether mentally or physically. So therefore we went and created channels for different things to help people connect the dots, if you want to call it that. But today with me, I have someone who can guide us through, burnout, to how to live in harmony, and how to live that life balance, work balance kind of concept, and we've touched on this in a few other chapters and shows, but there's always enough discussion about, not enough discussion, and we need more of it. So with me, I have Victoria Mensch, all the way from Bali. And I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm jealous. But Victoria has a tremendous background, from her background in education, her practice, as well as the corporate world, and the work as a mentor who helps people who are successful, but they need a little bit more than just the success in business, a success in a balanced life. So without any further ado, Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Hurricane. Very happy to be here.
Well, listen, I'm the happiest because, this is a topic I enjoy. And you know what? I've been in the corporate world for many years, and it does take a toll on you. And it's very difficult to balance life and family and work, and especially in today's demanding world, right? And in the corporate, whether you have actually, a business or in the corporate world, is the same thing. I mean, it still
Right.
takes a lot. It sucks your blood and time and everything and energy. But we'll talk about all that stuff. Now, your background is interesting because you are technically a doctor in psychology. I mean,
Mhm.
you've achieved that, and so guide us through your background, just for our
Right.
audiences, and then we can take it from there.
Right. So I started my professional life after school as a psychologist. So I was really interested, fascinated in people, what they feel, what they think, how psyche works, why we do things we do. So I studied psychology in college, and then decided to go into academia and actually get a PhD in psychology as well. So I was interested in that, and with my psychology background, I started counseling people, people in crisis. I worked with actually with psychiatrists as well, helping them with their patients with the psychologic evaluations and things like that. But then very quickly, I kind of burned out of that. So now looking back, this was my first, I think this was my first encounter with the burnout. So I slowly started to pivot out of working one-on-one with people in crisis into something that's more, that's kind of more detached, I would say.
All right.
So by various, by various circumstances, by various decisions. So I actually came to work in the corporate world in marketing, where I found that my background in psychology was very useful, because at the end of the day, that's what marketing is, right? So you actually need to understand what people are thinking and what they want, and how they behave, and how to craft that perfect product for them, for what they need, and how to explain and tell a story for them, what they need. So that's what it is. And I was in Silicon Valley, so I went to high tech, which was as remote as possibly could be from the world of psychology, how I started, and was a very unique background for that. So I kind of succeeded there, and then went and got my MBA and built most of my career actually spent in Silicon Valley in product marketing and high tech industry in various capacities. So I built a career there. I managed teams. I worked in different companies with different products, and then at some point, went through several burnouts. And at some point, I actually decided that I want to go back to my roots, or my roots decided that they want to go back to me. And I became interested in this work, in the work of helping myself, first of all, with crafting that more harmonious life. And then through my experience and through my background and my education, sharing that with the people around me.
Well, that's a pretty comprehensive background. It's a lot of work, a lot of years of expertise that you've shared with us. Well, first things first. I mean, you said it. Psychology is a big world, right? I mean, it's understanding
Right.
behavior and all the stuff, and it's a beautiful, you know, uh, field of study. I mean, it's interesting because you deal with the human nature and the
Hmm.
human, psyche and all the stuff, and you worked with psychiatrists and so it's a pretty good comprehensive world, but it can take a toll on people, and I
Hmm.
guess you decided to go into a career path in the corporate after that. And so, and it's interesting that you said marketing, because you're right. Marketing is all about behavior and driving people to behave a certain way through, whatever messaging and videos and pictures and sounds that you can, compile for them. And we see it works. It works tremendously. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite, I guess guests and also a recurring show guest that we have for a particular show. It is a psychiatry show, and he had said the best psychiatrists in the world are the marketing psychiatrists or psychologists because they know what they're doing. They know how to manipulate the mind to behave
Hmm.
a certain way, and really can get you to buy stuff even if you don't need it or if you don't want it.
Hmm.
Or I mean, I'm
Wow.
pushing the envelope, but they can do it. I mean, they're good. Um, you know,
Right.
they can really just tap into all those emotions and things like that. So it's pretty powerful. So it was now, but you got it in a high tech, which is a very intense world, and not only
Right.
that, marketing itself, any marketing department gets a lot of pressure because deadlines. This, I mean,
Right.
I've led
Hmm.
marketing, I've worked with
Hmm.
marketing, I've partners with marketing over the years. I'm in business development, sales, and operations, but we that's your almost sidekick partner, department that works with you hand in hand because you're in sales, right? And really, there's a lot of work and pressure that gets done from that unit. And I've seen people really working 6 days, 7 days, long hours, project deadlines, this, that, and especially if you work, for example, in our world, these government programs, they got to produce all these documents and all this stuff that needs to go to thousands and or sometimes
Hmm.
millions of members, and it's a lot of stuff, and they have to get through the approval process and stuff, and so it's a lot of intense, I guess pressure, which ultimately will burn out the body and the
Hmm.
mind.
Hmm.
Now, so it sounds like you've had quite a few of those, seasons of burnout, and then you said,
Right.
no, I need to do something for me. And then it felt good. And you said, okay, now let me do this for the others. And I'll take it on a mentorship, route. And you did. And by the way, thank you for doing that because we need that. Like I said, maybe people may be a lot less, um, I would say flexible to go see a psychiatrist or psychologist
Hmm.
in a clinical
Hmm.
setting, but they'll probably
Hmm.
take a mentor and a coach, in
Hmm.
that as well. Or not
Hmm.
even a therapy, because when you talk therapy, psychiatry, psychology is like, ooh, it's a little
Yeah.
taboo. In some cultures, it is still even in the most
Hmm.
modern countries, it's still not something that you really want to,
Hmm.
touch on. Although it is recommended. I mean, the work we
Hmm.
do here is try to convey that, hey, listen, you need help, you go seek the help. But a lot of people
Hmm.
would not. But going to a mentorship program through someone who understands how things work and who can relate to the burnout, it's a blessing, I would say. Now,
Hmm.
you got out of that, you started this work, but
Hmm.
you and I had a brief discussion before the show, and you mentioned something about how you try to make it a harmonious, way. So
Hmm.
you refer to it as a harmony balance or
Right.
something. So let's talk about that. The main core of your work.
Right, right. Yeah, so I call it work-life harmony. And there's, it could be theoretical discussion. It's just, once in a while, when, you get together for coffee and you can talk about words. But for a long time, we're talking about work-life balance, right? But I think that, harmony is kind of a deeper work because for some people, they're happy at work, right? And some people, they're happy at home. So it's really a kind of the different parts come together. And it's not just work and life, right? So in a lot of sense, like you want to construct a lifestyle that is fulfilling. So it's not necessarily that you're resting all the time, where you're on the yacht somewhere in the sea, right? So it's a life that's fulfilling, a life of purpose. So I think that's where harmony comes in. And at the same time, when I work with people, and that's what I went through, and when I work with people, a lot of kind of those burnout symptoms is are related to the sense of control, right? So like I feel that everything is out of control. There are all these external circumstances that are driving my life. It's a bad boss, or the kids that don't behave. There is like a political system that I don't agree with. There are, like, I don't know, wildfires in Australia that I don't like. There's so many external circumstances that are driving my life. People feel out of control. So I feel like the life of harmony is when you take control over what you want, and you create the life that you want that works for you. But for that control, what does it mean? Those control, how to take control of that? Sometimes you cannot change external circumstances. What you can change is your own core, your behavior, and the way you respond to those external challenges.
Well, thank you. Well, so Victoria, there's quite a bit there. I mean, first of all, I think humans, well, not humans, I mean humans in general, but us in the work world or the life, we kind of have a history that starts way from when you're a child. I mean,
Mm-hmm,
society has certain demands on us, right? So you're getting your stress level worked out from those ages, right? From the parents,
mm-hmm,
from the school system and stuff. And it's almost a system that's designed for us to be more of a workers. I mean, I can
mm-hmm.
refer to as worker bees if you
Right,
want to call it that way, right?
right.
And so
Mm-hmm,
we're trained through school system. You get up, you do this, you go to school, you got assignment stuff. So you're preparing yourself, and then you have the pressure of the parents who have also been affected with that system over decades and from generations. And then they get into the real world, and now people don't catch a break. I mean, you finish high school, you go to college, you finish college, you get into a career path, and now you gotta impress your bosses and your leadership and stuff. And now that's one way. Or you can start a business early on, and then you got to build that business, and it's a long journey, a very difficult one. And people get all these stresses and stuff. And now those things also. Now some people in this particular lineup, they can also get a family. And now it's like, well, and we see today there's a lot of divorce and stuff because there's many reasons for divorce. But one of them, besides stress and all the things that can drive people apart, it's really just finding the time to be with each other. I mean, people, when they date, that's okay. It's happy times, happy hour for a couple of years, maybe a few months. But then after that, it's work, career. My career's first. We got to pay the bills. We got all this stuff. All that stuff
yeah.
becomes very difficult and a heavy weight
Mm-hmm,
on everybody's shoulders, and not everybody knows how to balance it out. I mean,
mm-hmm,
I could refer to it, I mean, relate to it literally from, my own world. And,
mm-hmm.
it was like there were times where I worked 7 days, especially early on my career path.
Right,
And, so how do I do it? I was literally trying to balance things. So let's say we work on weekends, we had events, right? Street fairs, festivals,
right.
whatever. So I would
Mm-hmm,
actually take my family with me literally to these places so they hang out while I do my stuff, and then I finish and I meet with them, and then we continue just to kind of make it work.
right.
But it is not
Mm-hmm,
really, I mean, what if they didn't want to be there, right? Or
mm-hmm.
what if you spend too much time away from them? That causes problems. So it's a very difficult thing. And, again, you talk about that nice harmony. I mean, it's a great word, because
Mm-hmm.
because it's
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate target. If we can actually have that, we're good.
Right.
But
Mm-hmm.
so now how do you explain to people that they have this inherited through their system? Because I mean, really,
Yeah.
it is a system, right? That gets us
Yeah.
to where we are, and get us to burn up.
Right. So it is a system. The system let's say the system contributes. Let's put it this way. So I know that a lot of what when you start reading or listening or hearing about burnout or experiencing burnout, the first step is really to look outside of you and say, well, but how can it be different, right? I do need to pay my bills. I do need to put a food on the table. I do need to have that job. I do want to have that family, right? So I do want to have my time. So there is that external pressure. The first that's how we kind of lose that control, that we place it outside of ourselves. And there is a culture of achievement. I completely agree with you, especially with people that I work with, mostly high achievers. right? So we chatted a little bit before the show that you go through steps, right? So you have your map in front of you since early age. You get good grades, the best grades. You get your extracurricular activities. You get to a good college. You get a good job. You get a good car. You get a good wife or husband, right? So all this, like you do all this, and you build this brick by brick with the expectations that once I do that, I'll be happy, right? So every break you put on top of that foundation and say, oh, once I do that, I'll be happy. Once I do that, I'll be happy. Once I do that, I'll be happy. So it's not like we're not motivated by becoming happy and harmonious. I think underlying motivation is there, right? It's just the tools that we're choosing. And I think the biggest the biggest illusion is that those breaks will bring you happiness, right? So and then people put all those bricks together, and then they have everything, but they realize that they have nothing. And then you look around and say, well, that's the system that did that. There is, as I said, the system does contribute, but the question is, what are you in control of? And what are you in control of is yourself, your behavior, your attitudes, your choices. So it's really a concept of radical self-responsibility, that everything is happening with me is really my choice and my responsibility. And then you say, what is it that I can control, right? I cannot control the schedule that if it is 9 to 5 schedule, the schedule at this particular position that my company requires on me, what can I control? And sometimes people come to this stage of burnout and they think that there is no exit, right? The only way is really to quit this all and move somewhere and just start from scratch. And sometimes it is the answer, but most of the times the answer is not that. The answer is really that radical responsibility, how I call it, that the what is in my control, how can I take over that and bring power back to myself through certain practices, through certain changes in behavior, through awareness, and so on and so forth. Does that make sense here again?
It does, and I mean, you touch on accountability and being in charge, right? But it's always like it always kind of in most of the discussion that are related to business that comes in as a topic, right? People are not aware, or people are still kind of running after the carrot, right? I mean, those are two things, right? So as you said, I love what you said. You break by break and thinking that the next one is going to be it, and then that's it. You got to stop somehow. And you're right. You use the word illusion. It is an illusion, because when is enough? When do you really stop? And as you said, especially when you are an achiever, it's never enough. You just want to do more and more. I don't care. You got a mansion, you want 2 mansions. You have a plane, you want a yacht. I mean, I'm just giving some extreme stuff, but it doesn't matter what we have. You can have a small car and you want a bigger car. You want a small house, you want a bigger. And you always want more. You want to do more. You want to travel around the world. You want to, and still have the business. You still have to work. But you're right. Like, what is under our control? And I think that's the biggest part. Because again, it's easier to blame the world for everything. I mean, we all do. It's a lot simpler, right? We always point the finger. I mean, that's all of us. I think we're all guilty of it to a degree. Like, that's the first reaction. Like, what the hell? Everybody is why is it this way? But Nick, what are you doing? As you said, I mean, did I pick the right job? I mean, you did it yourself. You said it. You went to a career that was very intense. Now you loved it, but you realized eventually that was burning you out. I mean, and that's all of us at a certain point. I mean, I've tried to retire twice. Seriously, I've done it twice already, where I left and I try to do it, and then you get pulled back into it. A good deal, a good project, good job comes in a long way. Like, okay, I got it in me. Let me do it. And then you work a few years and like, oh my God, this is like, it gets tense. And you're right. As you go higher, it doesn't get any easier. People think maybe it's going to get, no, the responsibility is higher. Now you're in charge of a lot of things. Teams, projects, P&L, all these things are part of your, targeting. And now you have, maybe you have to meet with the board. You're responsible for I don't know, stock, value and all the stuff. It's big.
Grow. Yes, definitely. The stress level increases the higher up you go. Yes.
Well, then there's one thing that gets affected as you said, you mentioned stress. So the mind gets too
Hmm.
tense, and people get, I mean, we've heard about people getting strokes. We've, people having, issues, physical issues, but we also have people who go, they let their bodies go. For example, they don't eat right. They don't. I mean, you're working long hours. You sleep less. You eat junk. Like, and it's all for the sake of making more and achieving more. But is it always
Hmm.
worth it? So the question, for you is, how do we really help people? Like, you need to
Right,
know when it's enough
right,
and when to stop.
right.
I mean, I know it sounds easy, but it's not. How do you deal with that?
Exactly. It's not easy. And what makes it even more complicated that a lot of those answers are really very personalized. So we are all unique individual people and we react differently in different levels of stress. So one of the stories that I remember, I had a lot of responsibilities, right? So I was growing my career. I had this big project, huge launch, multi-million dollar product. I had my family, I had small kids at that time, and I wanted to spend time with them. And I'm just driving around, dropping off my kid at some carpentry class. And there's a carpenter who teaches kids carpentry. What this is so nice. And I was thinking, it's like, this is the best, this is a dream life, right? So you remove all that stress and they teach carpentry to 3-year, 4-year olds. Isn't it nice? And I drop off my son and I ask this guy, it's like, how are you doing? And all of a sudden he's like, I'm so stressed. It's so much. So that's what I'm trying to say is that, for all of us, this levels are really individual, right? So for him, even that was stressful. I thought that, well, this is so nice. This is your passion. You teach carpentry to kids, but he was still overwhelmed with that, right? So like it's almost very difficult to say, well, if I wear this hat, then I'll be happy, right? So that's all this. That's what I'm talking about when they like you take responsibility for what works for you. So when I talk about burnout, I like to talk about two levels of that, and just maybe a little bit of a background. So this whole notion of burnout is fairly recent, right? And it's interesting that it came from a medical field. So there was a researcher who worked with nurses and doctors in the medical field, and he came up with this word of burnout because it's a lot of it is really for people who are in service, but because they're giving away so much and they don't have a way to replenish their energy. So it's kind of a state of exhaustion, first of all, like chronic exhaustion. Like you're tired all the time. You feel overwhelmed all the time. And then there are all those physical kind of elements that come in as well. And the reason for that is that burnout is a really chronic stress reaction. So stress historically had a very and still has a very good meaning and benefit for us that it keeps us alive, right? That stress reaction. If there's a real danger, there's a lion in the bush somewhere, and you see that lion, so the whole body mobilizes, right? So it's only your mind that's very focused on this particular situation and your muscular control that gets mobilized. Everything else gets shut down because in that particular moment you have to make a decision whether to flee the scene or to fight with this tiger, right? So you have to make that survival decision, make that judgment. And what happens in that stress cycle, you need to complete it, right? So like you startle, you realize the situation, you're aware of the situation, and then you need to complete that with an action. You have to either fight or run away. So that's the stress reaction, and that's it. And it turns out that in our real life, there are not a lot of tigers or lions that are hiding in the bushes, right? But the stress reaction is there. So our reptilian brain wants to keep us alive. It's a very important function. So we're actually starting to assign this danger, meaning to the situations that are not, literally survival situations. So as I said, it could be a situation at work, right? Maybe there are layoffs going on, or the boss is in a bad mood, or your kids don't want to go to school. These things that are not really related to survival, but we do pile them on, and then we expand from there. Oh, there's a hurricane somewhere in Tahiti, and then people are suffering. There's something else in the world. And I'm sitting there and I'm worried about this, right? So my survival mechanism turns on, but I don't complete the stress cycle, right? It's just piling on and piling on and piling on. And your body is always in that mobilized mode. So everything else gets shut down. That's why we have these digestive issues, because in that survival mode, you really don't need to digest anything. You really don't need to do anything else but be in that mobilized mode and take action. But we don't take action. We're just we're just mobilizing. So the first aid of a burnout is really those stress management techniques that most of us are aware of, but we're just kind of brushing them off. But they're very important, right? So you have to complete that stress reaction to bring your nervous system to the state where it actually can think about other things. When your other systems start working, your digestive system starts working, your reproductive system starts working, your breathing normalizes. So you switch from that survival fight or flight mode to a normal mode, more relaxed mode, which is rest and digest mode. And from that mode, they actually take more aware and conscious actions. So the first way of burnout is really those physiological kind of stress management techniques. Your breathing, right? So if you feel anxious or you feel anger or you feel out of control, things like that, breathing helps a lot, right? So and if you look, if you talk to those well-being experts, all of them talk about breathing and breath work one way or another. Mm-hmm. And there are tons of myriads of different techniques. How will you do that? There are very simple ones like box breathing, right? So it's you inhale on 4, you hold on 4, you exhale on 4, and then you hold on 4. And what it does, it actually brings oxygen into your system and it sends signals to your body. It's a bridge between the mind and the body, right? It sends signals to your reptilian brain, to your body, that the danger has passed. You can actually take a break. You can take that, moment to look around, to take more conscious, more aware action from there. So things like that, right? So that's why movement is so important. And when I say movement and exercise, it's not like you go to a gym for an hour every day. If you do, fantastic, but it's not that. It's really to complete that stress cycle, because everything mobilized. Now you need to complete this with muscular action on the level of a body. So it could be as easy as you clench your muscles and you relax, you clench and you relax, or it could be a brisk walk, around the house for 5 minutes. So it has a mechanism. It's a built-in mechanism in our body. There's actually a reason for that, a rational reason for that, why it helps, right? So it's not an artificial, just run away from it, right? No, there is a physiological mechanism that works there that helps. And that's the first aid, of stress management. And from there, from that point, from the rest and digest state, you can actually start making more sustained changes. And that's when it gets interested, and that's how you, again, return the power to yourself and build the practices and build the elements and tools in your life that help you, increase resilience. So no matter what comes from outside, you actually find that, still place inside yourself. You find a meaning inside yourself, and you react the way you want to react, as consistent with the life of harmony as you defined it for yourself.
Ooh, all right. Well, so there's quite a bit there. So there's a few things you mentioned. One, I love the example that you said about when you went for the carpenter, and I'm gonna hit on the harmony back. But that's just funny because when you said that, a lot of us, and we all make this mistake, and I can at least claim that I've made that mistake myself, is that we think the grass is green on the other side. Everybody thinks that the world is peachier on the other way, and we never see it from the other people's eyesight or visual, right? Until you talk to them, and you're right. Everybody thinks that their world may not be, as peachy as you think it is, because that's the thing. Even today in the social, in the social media world, you see people in their best behavior in their happiest moments. That's what they post. They hardly,
Mm-hmm.
post the bad moments. I mean, some people do. I mean, they have situations they want to claim and they want to make sure that the world knows about it. But very few do that. Most people like, I'm on vacation, I'm having a good time, having a good dinner, and dressing nice, dancing. But it's really, is that the real world that they actually in? And so that's one big one. And you're right. These things are, as you said, it is amazing how you described it. It seems that we are in a constant state of anxiety. I mean, because really,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it looks like if we don't do that full cycle, we are constantly in that
Mm-hmm.
fight or flight mode, and it's not getting to the end of it where, and I think that's really what gets to us. That's one, element. The other one is you said something very powerful about passion.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? We all know that if you do what you're passionate about, like we heard this many times,
Mm-hmm.
you never work a day in your life, right? But how many of
Mm-hmm.
us do achieve that passion or get to the
Mm-hmm.
point where you really do what you're passionate about? Most of us, again, start an education system or
Mm-hmm.
a road that takes us to a different career path from what we really want. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us make that leap. We're gonna do something, or get a degree in one kind of major and then do something completely different, and we're not happy, right? A lot of people find themselves kind of resetting themselves at a later on,
Mm-hmm.
time. One of the things that happened in the pandemic, for example, a lot of people, with everything that happened, they started reflecting, and many changed course. In
Right.
there, it actually helped people kind of reset. In a good way. I mean, as much as it was a tragedy and there's loss of life and everything, but there were some things that came out of it, and one of them, was the idea that some people kind of reset themselves. They found themselves, for example, in a career dead end where they lost jobs. Many people lost jobs, and they
Mm-hmm.
found themselves more creative. I mean, look, I mean, social media got booming. I mean, TikTok and all stuff. Now
Right.
you got
Right.
millionaires
Mm-hmm.
of TikTok, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, all the stuff a lot of it came out of that pandemic. Then you have all the new businesses that came out of this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you have a pandemic of AI now that
Right.
triggered, so there's a lot of stuff and it changed. People are finding themselves in happier places. There's more
Mm-hmm.
of affiliate marketing, and people are just doing that, working from home. There's kind of, so it changed the dynamics, but it is something we should all inspire or aspire to, rather,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
really listen. We live once. We need to live happy. We need, as you
Yeah.
said, we need to find that harmony, and we definitely need to find the passion to be there. So that's
Right.
true. Now, the other thing you really stated is that this whole burnout concept started in the healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. This is not limited to healthcare. This is everyone. Doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter who you are, where you are, you're gonna have this unless you know how to deal with it. Now, you talked about the first level of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what is the next level of burnout?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You actually talked a little bit about that when you said about passion, right? The first, at some point of time, I started to look at this burnout as really a positive thing, right? So there is a reason why you're experiencing what you're experiencing, right? So it's a kind of like a canary in the mine. That there's a signal that your body, your mind, your spirit is sending you that there needs to be changes, right? And that's kind of the positive element of that. So our body is fundamentally very intelligent. So they're sending us all these signals. Oh, I need to change something. And I think one of the things that you mentioned is that, well, with the passion and people want to do what they want to do. But even that is actually, once you get on that path of kind of going with what others designed for you, even that is a question. It's like, what do I want? So one of the first things that we do, and what I do for myself, what I did for myself when I do my mentorship, one of the things that we do is actually this concept of self-care. I call it self-care. Other people can call it differently, but what is self-care and why it is important? Speaking of that control, who's in control, right? So you might not, control how your company operates, what your culture in the company, right? What you can control is yourself. So you bring that power inside yourself. And you do things every day. You actually do things, you prioritize things and activities that you do just for the joy of it, right? So it's a practice. You find things to do just for not because somebody asked you to, not because it's useful, not because there is a huge return on investment on that, or a small return on investment on that. You do those things just for the joy, and the more frivolous they are, the better, actually, because you train yourself to prioritize that, to prioritize joy in your life. And one of the exercises, the first exercises that we do is to put together a list of 20 things that you enjoy doing. When I first did this, I was like in a deep burnout, very unsatisfied, unmotivated, lots of negativity, lots of sadness, right? And I decided to do this exercise. And you would think, what would be easier? Just to put together a list of 20 things that you like to do or you want to do. I stopped at number 3. It took me 10 days to complete the list. I put 1, 2, 3, and then this is it. I actually don't remember what I like. I don't know anymore. Who am I? What is it that I want to do? So it took me 10 days to complete the list. And it does not have to be grand things like, oh, I want to, I don't know, climb Kilimanjaro or something. It can be, but this could be small things. Like, I want to have 5 minutes to myself in the middle of the day, just sitting outside reading a book, right? So I really like reading a book. Or I really like taking a walk, or, oh, I remember I liked playing tennis. So how do I build that, right? So you start small, like I want to do my nails, I don't know. So things that I enjoy doing just for the sake of it, just because they bring me joy, for nothing else. That's the first step. You build that list. The next step is the tricky one. That's actually how you take the action. And people with a lot of responsibilities and high achieving careers and lives, they live and die by their calendars. I know I do. If it's not my calendar, it doesn't exist. So you actually put them on your calendar. You do 3 of those things every day. You put them on a calendar. And then this is the point where I start hearing all this, objections. It's like, well, I'm busy as I am. I'm a busy doctor, for example. I have back-to-back patients. What do you want me to do? And as I said, it can be as small as I go outside for 3 minutes and I just stand under the sun. And I do it because I really enjoy it. And 3 minutes is not much. What it does, what this exercise does, what this self-care does, when you build 3 of those every day, that's how you replenish your energy. You start small, but that's the time to say, okay, I am important. What I want is important. I listen to myself and I prioritize myself. And that's how I take control over everything else in life. That this is important. My life is important. My wants are important. And I'm deliberately going to build that into my day. And that's how you start your transformation process. As easy as that. And at the end of the day, so what I actually found for myself and what I found for my clients as well, after you do that for a week, you immediately start actually seeing results in your state, in your energy level. And when you go back to your patterns, like you're angry, for example, you're anxious, or there's something, some reaction that something that you don't like outside, something that's happening that is frustrating for you, then the first question you ask is like, well, how is my self-care? And more often than not, I kid you not, this is a miracle. More often than not, you actually trace it back to yourself. Like, oh, I did not care of myself today. So that's why this happened. That's why I'm frustrated. That's why I'm angry. That's why I'm unsatisfied. And what it also does, it actually, you continuously check with yourself. What is it that I want? How is it that I feel? What is it that I want? And you go down to that list and you create more and more room for in your life for things that bring you joy. So it does not have to be immediate process, like, well, this job sucks, I'm sorry, and then I need to quit this all and start from scratch. Then you're actually making that change every day, step by step, and you're making your life more positive one and more harmonious one. Isn't it easy?
Easier said than done, right? But it's amazing because when you ask that question, I mean, I kind of reflected on it, and you're right. It is not easy to put 20 things that make you feel good. and just in the blink of, an eye. It will take some time to really put them together. You don't think about it until you actually hear it in the form of a question. So when you said that, it made me think. So you're saying, I'm like, huh? I can even find one right
Right.
away. I mean, I did find a couple now by now, but literally, you're right. Like you got to think about these things, right? Like what is, and it's amazing how you stated it, that little things can make a difference, and it starts with that self care. I think
Yeah.
what I've seen it in my person and other people, but actually, I grew a little bit better, in terms of time, where I realized,
Hmm.
like, life is not worth it,
Hmm.
just give and give and give. As a matter of fact, if not, I'm not mistaken. I mean, earlier I just reposted something that was interesting. It was just different. It was a TikTok that showed people who were having anxiety attacks and things like that, and podiums and things, and I'm not even sure how dangerous some of these situations were, because it didn't state. But the fact is, what the quote was about, like, you're working, and one day, you end, or something happens to your health or your life. Your employer in general will be replacing you. And they're not going to be in the funeral. Maybe they will be, God forbid,
Hmm.
but they'll be
Hmm.
replacing your position right away. You're replaceable, right? You're expendable.
Hmm.
And sometimes we don't realize that. I remember
Hmm.
one of my, person mentors in the business world. He had said something that was powerful that stuck with me. Like, everybody's replaceable. The door swings both ways. And you know what? Always be prepared for that. Doesn't matter how good you
Hmm.
are. Things can happen. You may not see eye to eye.
Hmm.
New person comes
Hmm.
in, and then voila, you're out. Right. So
Hmm.
always know that you are the one, and you got to
Right.
take care of yourself first, and you have to be prepared. And most of us,
Hmm.
sometimes we use the ostrich effect, which is basically the world is peachy, nothing is happening, and I'm good. But it's not
Hmm.
really the reality of things. Things are happening. And you got to face the music, sooner or later. So as long as you're prepared, you'll be ahead of the game. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that, we are, our worst enemies, because we tend to burn ourselves, because, like you
Hmm.
said, more and more and more and more, how much more? And
Hmm.
I believe, and I referred to this a couple of times, where Steve Jobs, for example, a good example of a super achiever, a leader, I mean, multimillionaire, you name it, right?
Hmm.
But some of his last, speeches and or documentation of what he stated was all about, all that money is irrelevant in the face of
Right.
imminent debt and health, and issues and concerns.
Hmm.
And that makes you think, like, wow,
Hmm.
you're young, you're full of energy and joy, and goals and achievements and dreams. But then what's the exchange, right? Sometimes we don't.
Right.
That could be the family. Some people, actually, they go through the career path, they never have kids, they never have a family, they never experience.
Hmm.
Now, maybe, granted, some
Hmm.
people don't want that, but I think
Right.
the
Hmm.
99% majority, or the majority, is, that's how we structure as a human, right? We long
Hmm.
to these things in family, right? But even if,
Hmm.
let's say, the exception, I don't want any of that. But then what do? Some people don't vacation, they don't go see the world, they don't do anything. They work, they work, they work, they work, they save money.
Hmm.
What's the point? Now, one day you get, sick. I mean, my
Hmm.
mom is at an age which she's just been hospitalized a couple of times, and it made me think, like, what, and especially spending some time at the hospital, and seeing how people are in their
Right.
most vulnerable times, and how they're really, frail. I mean, life is not really, that, long for you to actually sacrifice all your health, and
Hmm.
and
Right.
mental status and stuff. You gotta take care of yourself. Self-care, as you said,
Right.
is powerful.
Hmm.
And so I love what you said, like, take the time, gym, food, take a stroll, get
Hmm.
tan, get some vacation.
Hmm.
I mean, there are people that don't take vacation.
Right. Right.
Staycation, I
Exactly.
don't care. Just sit home, just relax, do something, but decompress, right? Those are the
Right.
things. Like, take your if you have lunch. I mean, listen, I've been an executive level, and yes, we work through lunch, we eat on the run. I've had food, while I'm driving, but I
Hmm.
realized over time that that was not healthy. That was not,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
one thing I learned over the years: doesn't matter how good you are, how well you do for companies. Sometimes you get replaced, sometimes you move on, sometimes you don't see eye to eye,
Hmm.
and you've changed. I mean, in
Hmm.
my career, I was in a few companies, not one.
Hmm.
Very few people today start in one company and end
Right.
at the same company.
Hmm.
I mean, many, years ago, that was the case. Not anymore. So it's changed the dynamics. But our problem is that we don't take care of ourselves. And if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of
Hmm.
anybody else.
Right.
You know? So
Right. Right. Hmm.
no, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying, right? So you place that responsibility inside, not outside. Yes, there are some things that are happening outside, right? Uh, Again, there are some circumstances that are outside of your control. A lot of how you feel about it, what you do about it, the choices that you make, they are within your control. So that's kind of, you separate that. It's like, what is it that I control, right? So I find myself in this situation, whatever it is, there is some level of responsibility that lies with me. So I'm going to focus on that part, and I'm going to change that part. If something is not satisfactory, I'm going to change that part. And I really liked a lot of what you just said, because people will say, well, you find your passion and you live a life of passion. I've seen a lot of people who live the life of passion and they're as burned out, right? And that's really unfortunate part, that you love your job, you like your job, you get a satisfaction from that job or whatever the activity that you do, and you still get burnout. So it's even beyond. So a lot of people like I meet, they are about to quit their jobs, but once we go through these exercises, once we go through this work, they actually they say, well, it's not the job that I did not like. What I really did not like is how I constructed my life around this job. And once they go through self-care, they go through the gratitude rituals, they set the boundaries from themselves, they put that responsibility inside themselves, like, wow, they actually find that they spend less time at work, but they're more productive, and they add all these other pieces to their lives and they pay attention to them. They actually pay attention to the things they do want instead of the things they don't want. That makes a harmonious life, and they're even more successful in their job than before, and they get to keep it, and they realize that that's their passion. It's not the job that they needed to change, it's everything else around the job that they needed to change for themselves. So I think that's the powerful part of that.
Well, thank you. Well, Victoria, it's funny because you're saying this, and something came to my mind. Like today, we take work with us home. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, I just remember in the 90s, for example, you would not take, work at home. You finish your work and you're done. You go enjoy your life. Friday night, you're done. You come back Monday. Now you're working 7 days a
Hmm.
week, your emails, and you almost feel obligated to respond when you see something,
Yeah,
and someone out there is not enjoying their life or having self-care, and therefore they just kind of send an email in the middle of nowhere and,
right.
over 3 o'clock in the morning, five, and they expect
Mhm.
someone now you, as you said, you got to set those boundaries. I'm not going to
Yeah.
respond to this. Like I have rules. For example, if I'm busy, I'm not picking up the phone. I'll call you when
Hmm.
I'm ready for you. You are
Hmm.
interested in something, leave me a voicemail and I'll get back to you. And then I prioritize the urgency. So stuff like that you learn, to kind of navigate through, but it's not
Right.
easy. And I love what you said. Yeah, you can have passion. I loved what I did and what
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you don't get burned. You still get tired if
Right.
you don't balance. Like I had the rule, like every 3 months I gotta be on a week or two or 10 days vacation. I
Yes.
cannot work the
Hmm.
whole year. Like I see people that will go through a whole year, never take a day off.
Hmm. Hmm.
You can't.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
used to take my Friday night, and do date night with my wife. We hang out.
Hmm.
Movie night and a dinner. I mean, you set some rules like Sunday is family day. So you add few things that can help you kind of look forward to that Monday and to do the project, right?
Hmm.
If you have the ability to work from home, you can use that. I mean, if it's performance based, roles and stuff, you can do that. I
Hmm.
encourage that too. Like, but not everybody's like that. Now, I do
Hmm.
have one question, Victoria. I think
Hmm.
our issue is there's us, as you said, we take a level of responsibility, but there's also our society in a way. Because
Right.
here's the thing:
Hmm.
when you're a kid, if you ask kids, children today, anyone, what would you like to
Hmm.
be in the future? I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be engineer and
Right.
stuff. So we have these
Overachiever.
standard, yeah, we have these standard response. And by the way, that's worldwide. Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
part of the world you are. It's really the high paying jobs, right? Career, but that's
Hmm.
almost being programmed in all of the kids,
Hmm.
right? We are not doing good enough about educating the children to
Hmm.
build this in their path, meaning that
Right.
you're going to learn all this stuff but learn to enjoy life. You're going to
Yeah.
do this. If we were to incorporate this from those early days, I think the
Hmm.
problem would be resolved sooner than
Yeah.
later, right? We will not get burned out because we will know how to do it. And I see a little bit of that in our generation Z, like my kids. they,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
kind
The
of
ship
they
is
kind of have,
turning. Yes.
yeah, I think they're getting there. I mean, to a degree, but if we can implement some of this early on, I think it
Hmm.
will change, in the next generation. people would be less burned out because they'll
Yeah.
have, and like even today, there's a talk about 3 day, 4 day week work. They're talking
Right.
about less hours.
Hmm.
I think some of the companies now they give you unlimited PTO. Just
Right.
just work when you
Yeah.
want. And perform. So there is some of that level, but it's not as a mainstream as you want to call it.
Yes, yes. So this is my fundamental belief, right? So maybe I'm a dreamer, but this is my fundamental belief. And this is why I kind of feel this as my mission. That's how the change starts, right? You start with yourself. And especially, we're talking about high achievers, senior executives, founders, entrepreneurs, people who do impact lives, right? So you start with yourself, you start with your life. And that's how change trickles down from there. So like maybe some people are in a position to make those systematic structural changes, which are big, right? So we lived as a society in in this structure for a long time. It's kind of built in, from a young age, as you said. But the change starts from somewhere, and I believe that it starts from individuals. Like you change yourself, you change, work around you. So in my work, for example, when I changed how I approached work-life harmony and balance, I found that my team actually started to adapt to that as well. So they started to make this, you almost like a role model in that. In families, for example, once you start kind of in more healthier and positive relationship within the family, then the rest of the family starts to behave that way. Your kids are starting to make different choices. Your teammates started to make different choices. People around, so you actually create those ripple effects, and that's how the change starts. So that's my fundamental belief that each of us is capable of that. We are changing that environment, bit by bit by changing our own lives.
Well, thank you for that's a big one. I mean, literally, because you said change starts somewhere, and it starts with individuals. Everything. I mean, look, a policy can be positive or negative. A leader can change a company culture, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I've been in stiff companies and I've been in very flexible companies. I've been,
Mm-hmm.
even myself when I have the authority, at least in my department, I do different things for my team. Like, we hang out
Mm-hmm.
more, we do things. People need.
Right,
I
right,
don't I don't look for like, hey, you're late 2 minutes. I mean, whatever.
right.
I give you a good example. I stopped making meetings at 9 o'clock, and
Yes.
I start doing meetings at 4 o'clock because they're to me meaningless. I can do everything I need. I need a couple hours meetings with people. They don't have to be that early because what I realize is people come in, drive in from whatever they live in a stressful mode. They actually already
Mhm.
stressed out. They're waking up early. They got caught in traffic. They're cranky. They come into a meeting. Their mind is not there. They're already in the stress mode.
Right,
So they're,
right,
as you
right.
said, they're stiff. There is no flexibility. So I already so some of these changes I've implemented personally, but you're right. It's not enough. There's more that we can do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think I think progressive leaders out there. And if you're listening, folks out there, whoever is in charge, if you take care of business and you give a little bit of flexibility to the team and your workplace, you're going to make a difference in their way, in their behavior. And matter of fact, if they're happy home and you give them the ability to do certain things in a
Right,
certain way, they'll do it. Like, for example, one thing that was a historic, thing that changed post pandemic is like you had to be in the office five
right,
days a week.
right,
Well, guess what? We survived through it, and people worked remotely. Businesses still thrive,
right.
still to date, and we have no problem. Now, obviously, I get it. The economies of some townships
Yeah.
and things like that suffer because there's no more traffic and restaurant business and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like, for example, in the case of New York City, they made it as a law to get the employers to bring people in because they needed more people in the streets, and I get the businesses that are
What else
there.
can you do? Just do another law, right?
But you know what I'm saying? So I get some of the logistics, but again, here's my thing. It seems that it's always around the money and the profit.
Mm-hmm.
And we this
Mm-hmm.
is this is where we live today. It's like we don't balance it. Here's the money and here's life. There is a way
Mm-hmm.
you can, as you say, I love the way harmony. You can do this in a harmonious way and you can have a balance.
Right,
But
right.
we need to start seeing that if I get a great team that is happy,
Mm-hmm.
they're gonna produce
Mm-hmm.
in less time. And I have a good joke for you. So we're in sales, so sales is stressful by default.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done 30 years of sales leadership, right? And we have goals that month after month, day after day. We're only as
Yeah.
good as the numbers today. But here's what I used to tell people, and we live by the rule for years. two a day keeps the manager away as a rule, right? So
Hmm.
you get up, you do your thing. By 12 o'clock, you're done. I'm not going to worry about what you're about. Now, you want more, you do
Hmm.
more. And here's what you find: the achievers, they're still going to work more. They're going to do more.
Right.
But
Right.
you give the opportunity to people. Listen,
Yeah.
it's a performance based job. I don't need you to
Hmm.
show up, and where you're late.
Hmm.
Just come in, do your business. That's it. You want flex? I used to tell people two things: you can do it your way, my way. I'm going to give you the leeway. Do whatever you want. If you're not
Hmm.
performing, then I'm going to interfere with your performance and try to help you
Hmm.
and guide some
Yeah.
of your strategy. But if your strategy works for you, it works for me.
Yeah.
I'm good. We're all
Yeah.
happy. You don't need to
Right.
see me. But so changes make a difference.
Right. Right.
so so you,
Exactly. So that's one, yeah. So that's one other practices, in building that harmony, right? How you relinquish unnecessary control.
I love it.
So that's exactly what you were doing, right? So you're relinquishing unnecessary control. So you actually found that the team is much more effective, and they don't need you and your time to micromanage, to supervise them. So you actually created more harmony, not only for yourself but for your team as well. So that's wonderful. It's a great example.
I mean, well, it's really true, and I believe as you said, change begins somewhere. I think
Mm-hmm.
we all can make a difference. Listen, I'm building my own little company now, and I have great ideas about changing the dynamics. And here's the thing: I think the problem is that we've had these templates of certain schools of
Yes.
thoughts of how to
Mm-hmm.
run business. So business schools, they
Mm-hmm.
have their own ways and
Yeah.
formulas. So you learn this formula, this is how it is. You learn this formula, this is how it is. This is like the
Mm-hmm.
blueprint of how it's done. But who says that's the only blueprint? I mean, if
Right.
you take architecture, designs, there's
Mm-hmm.
millions of architectural designs. They
Right.
don't necessarily feel
Right.
the same, right? Same
Yeah.
concept here, but we don't have that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so 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 now how does your program work for someone that's interested? How do they work? How can they reach out to you, and how can they really
Hmm.
benefit from the
Yeah.
mentorship program that you have?
So most of the mentorship I do is one-on-one mentorship. So, people can reach out. The On my LinkedIn account, there's a button there. You can schedule a call and we can chat about this. So most of the work I do is one-on-one private mentorship, and I find that the most rewarding for me as a mentor and mentee as well, because it's very personalized and individualized and all that. I do have a group mentorship program that runs in a cycles of 3 months, where we have 5 to 6 people on group calls, and we go through these exercises and we go through some one-on-one time as well, to put us kind of back on track to the road of harmony. And I also run retreats for personal growth, when you take yourself out for 10 days, yeah, out of your comfort zone, somewhere like Bali, for example, because I know Bali so well. And it's the whole environment of Bali is actually very conducive to those transformations and kind of personal growth. And we do that in a retreat format over 10 days, and with people, like-minded people, high achievers who get together and learn to reignite that passion for life, learn to practices and tools, and build their own practice to take home with, to continue on that path of harmony.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. So that come two questions on that. Well, first of all, Bali. I mean, hello, you're right there. It's the best place you can have a retreat. So why not, right? Well, the other one is really, so there's two things. I know you target the high achievers, so that the
Mm-hmm.
executive stuff. But now, would that also include anyone that is in a path of success, even though they may be at a lower point of their career
Right,
path? But let's say a
right.
new manager or manager and
Mm-hmm.
team that is really new leaders that are being really
Mm-hmm.
born and,
Mm-hmm.
and, and mentored.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be considering those
Right.
types of individuals?
Right. Yeah. So kind of the people find me usually when, as I said, they said like, oh, okay, I am on that path of success. I feel successful, right? So I know that I achieved that external success, but I still feel that hole inside. So it could be burnout, it could be some kind of unsatisfaction. So there's something else that's missing. Like I checked all the check mark and check boxes, right? So everything that everybody told me to do, I did that. I am on that path, but there's something missing. So what is it that's missing, and how do I fill that hole, and how do I have kind of that successful happiness or productive happiness, as I call it. So that's absolutely people who are on the way there, who find overwhelmed by their success, let's put it this way, or find some kind of unsatisfaction. It's like, what? They told me that I'll be happy when I get this. So those would be the people who would benefit most from working with me.
Well, thank you. And the reason I'm asking specifically is that, as someone who've led teams, I've always looked at programs that are available for management, to mentor them and train them. This seems that to be, I mean, for anybody that's out there running teams,
Right.
you have, a bunch of leaders that you're developing. I mean, in sales, you might have, directors, you
Yeah.
have managers, supervisors that are really on their path. This could be a nice little, I would say, group retreat, when you do team building and
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
burnout training and how to balance life and stuff. You can really motivate people and make them more
Yeah.
excited to do the work. So again, just an idea, at least for the people that are watching, and maybe if you have a team, that this could be an idea. So reach out to Victoria. But at the same time, I just wanted to really share that, because I right now I don't have that team, but if I do, this will be something I would definitely be considering personally, because I'm always looking for something unique that can
Hmm.
change how these people, operate and
Right.
behave. It's a rewarding thing, but it's also a
Hmm.
development thing. I mean, you're a leader, you want to develop your leadership, but you're
Right.
developing not just in skills, but also in behavior and things. So this could be a
Right.
great thing.
Oh, thank you so much, Hurricane. Yes, this is fantastic idea. And for sure, I'd love to work with your team and team like yours as well. I think this is a great environment. So it's like, part of it is like, yeah, do good, but part of it actually makes business sense as well. People are more satisfied, they're more motivated, they stay longer. So all the training that you invest in those people, you can actually keep them longer, right? So, and they're more productive as well. So it makes a total business sense to kind of doing this work in terms of building the teams and finding the right motivation, the right balance for them to continue kind of on a more productive and efficient path within your company.
Well, it's funny because in sales we do a lot of incentives, and you have like these present club, for example, and when
Mm-hmm.
we achieve something, we go on a retreat. This could be a more productive retreat
Yes.
where not only we can award and reward, but also it could be a learning
Exactly.
concept, because you always try to, even with these retreats, they do some seminars, some learning stuff. This could be the ideal scenario for that. So again, for those of you out there, I mean, this is going to air on the Job Market and the Biz World channel. So if you're watching or listening, this could be something you can take advantage of. And certainly we have the talent and resource that can help us here. So, I just wanted to throw that in because I can see the value of that. And believe me, if I have the ability anytime soon, we'll be talking more further on that one, because again, I'm literally checking boxes on some of the guests that have certain things and I've done
Yeah.
this before where I've called upon. For example, I had a great, guest that we've done a few sessions, and he's a hypnotherapist, and I got him
Mm-hmm.
actually to do a program for my teams, and it
Mm-hmm.
was like 8 weeks, program, and it was 1 hour a week, whatever, but it helped them
Mm-hmm.
really boost up and things. It was a great
Yeah.
program. So these things are real, and I think we should all take advantage of what's available to us as a resource. And again, this is it. I mean, if you really want people to be better, happier, operate in a better family space, and be the next generation of leadership, and also perform at the highest level,
Mm-hmm.
if we can help them do that in a way that is more fun and um, you know in the long term, changeable, of how they are and how they behave, why not? So that's it. So we've exceeded an hour. But so what kind of advice would you give our audiences, just to leave them with today?
Well, radical self-responsibility, yes. So there's something you can change. You can take your power back. I think that's the biggest in insight is that this approach really brings the power back, empowers you to make the changes for yourself, and those changes will impact the people around you. So you create the environment that you want to be, and you create the life that you really want to live.
Ooh, powerful. I'll take it. Listen, I mean, yeah, Victoria, thank you so much for really, coming on and sharing your wisdom and some of the work that you do. I think it's needed. I think, we need more of you out there. So that's a good thing. We have your link. So I'll have the contact, for your, with your LinkedIn and all. Do you have a website or something that people also can, or just the LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I think the best one would be to a link to the retreat. Actually, it's in October in Bali. So that's atlantis.institute/retreat, and I'll send you that link.
Please, yeah, because I can I
Yeah,
can use that on the description of the show. So
yeah,
we're still ahead of it. So maybe there's people that watch the show and listen to it that can, join. I mean, if you have people that need to make it, a life-changing moment that's going to
yeah,
benefit them and you,
absolutely.
why
That's
not?
it. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, for really joining and being with us. And yeah, I enjoyed this discussion. And folks, I guess this is the end of today's show. Hope you've enjoyed this. And again, share the wealth, share this episode with people, and definitely share the link, so if you want to have a retreat in Bali, this could be the one, and it will be a productive one. That being said, I'm American Age. We'll be talking soon. New day, new show on topic. Bye for now.